this is not what I want. Sorry, I don't know if anybody's out here, but I cannot figure out how to get it started on Facebook Live, so I had to start a new one. But if not, you guys can come back and watch this later and get this set up. I'm actually going to be using my little Janome machine today so that you can see better how it works on a single needle machine. And I'm a little discombobulated because I couldn't get this started, so I'm running behind. Anyway, I wanted to also show you guys how to, let me see if I can get this up on my iPad so I can see if anybody's talking. How to combine designs on the fly. Well, let me see if I can find the right account. I should have had my son help me. Alright, I don't think I have to be logged in on here to see it. Let me find my channel. Let's see. Okay, I think I found it. I'm going to turn that volume down so I don't hear you guys. Okay, I'll try and keep an eye out for any questions that come up, if anybody does have any questions. One of these days I'll get good at this. So anyway, I just wanted to show you how you can combine designs. So what I've already done is I'm going to be doing the 4x4, but I'm using my 5x5, 5x7 loop because I only have one of each on this Janome. So I went ahead and stitched out the back template, and then I'm going to go ahead and cut the vinyl to cover that up. And then I'm going to create a design on it. So I'm going to do everything backwards when I add the stitch, and I should have been smart enough to cut my pieces in advance, but I didn't, so bear with me just a minute. And I'm using this amazing new metallic from my Punk, of course. I do shop from, I have like maybe one other vinyl person that I like. She's a very nice lady, and she gets some interesting stuff in that if I'm not worried about using it for something I'm going to wash, I'll order from her. Shout out to Jane, she's out there. But Amy and her crew test all of this stuff so it's safe for all applications that we're going to use it for. And so I like to do order from there primarily. But see, what I'm doing is I'm covering up that little template. I'm not going to stitch the outline on here because I don't want to fuss with making sure I line it up and not see any of those stitches when I go to do the other one. And I actually just downloaded, I don't know if you guys are aware of, I think it's Tatiana Designs. She's out of the UK, and I don't visit her very often, but I happened to catch a glimpse today. She's a very nice lady. She supports, I believe it's greyhound rescues, and she gives out a ton of freebies, and all she asks is that you buy a design here or there to support her. So I guess she's not been getting a lot of sales. So I went ahead and supported her, and I bought a design, and I asked her permission if I could stitch it out. So I've gone ahead and taped this on, and if you look on the back, that's what I do. I hold it up to a light and make sure that you can see that your vinyl is covering everywhere from the back. And this might take a second to stitch this out. So what I'm doing is I already loaded that. So I'm going to return. Let me see if I can pull this over so you guys can see what I'm doing. I'm going to return over here to my USB drive. I'm going to pull this design up. And I'm doing this on the fly, guys. I've never done this before on this machine, so bear with me. I'm going to pull up her design. It's a cute little design. And then the first step, you'll see it shows 3 colors. The first step is her snap tab placement. So I'm going to forward out of there, and I want this cute design. So the trick is going to be how I'm going to load this up. And I don't know if this is going to work, so we're going to just try. Because I don't have, this machine doesn't show the positioning like my machine does. There's no way to know where it's going to start. So it looks like it's trying to start at the bottom. So I can jog here and see where it's going to go. See, there's a little option here. I'm just kind of, sorry, this is giving me error message. So I'm just kind of forcing through there. So I can tell it's going to be, it looks like it's starting at the bottom. I should have pulled this up in my software and looked at it before I did this. So this may work or it may not work. Okay, so I'm going to go back and start over at the first step. And I'm going to go back over here and I'm going to move it up in my design. Maybe. Uh-oh. Okay, guys, I might have to abandon this idea because it's not doing what I expected it to do. It's not. Is anybody there? So I moved it. Let's just wing it. We'll just see if it looks bad, it looks bad. It's just a test. I moved it as far as it'll go. Yes, that's the right way to do it. Maybe it's this one. Oh, here, it's tracing the outline. That's the whole thing now. See, I didn't know how to do that. I use this machine primarily for my testing. So that's what that's for. What's this one do? That just takes it to the front of the hoop. Okay, we're just going to wing it. I'm going to go ahead and start it, and we'll just see what happens. Oh, did not like that. Hopefully it'll line up. Let's see. I don't know how to tell who's on here. Oh, okay, I do see, now I finally see the chat. Shannon, okay, this is the, I have a box here. I love this pink tape. My friend told me about it. I actually had to order on the internet because I went to my local quilt shop and bought like 4 out of them, and I was running low on it. One of my friends gave me a supply on the internet, and I will post that in the comments later. But this is what it looks like. Where's the phone? The camera at? Oh, there we go. RK Embroidery Perfection Tape. So you may be able to find it at your local quilt shop. The one warning I will give you versus regular painter's tape, this is pretty sticky, and I found some test designs that I had left behind, and when I went to take the tape off of them, it was all sticky and gooey. So do not leave it on. I probably could have got it off with rubbing alcohol or something, but take it off when you're done with your product. It's tacky enough that it holds it in better place than the blue painter's tape, but you can reuse it several times. So, and you see I have tape all over. I don't think you can see it now, but I have tape all over here because I'll use it a few times. And I'm actually in my living room. I never got this machine upstairs, and I finally realized that I actually like it better down here in the living room because I'm not feeling well and I want to test something. I can just kind of come on over here and test it. So now that Christmas is over, we still haven't put our Christmas stuff in the basement. I'm going to rearrange. I have a craft table I'm going to use for all this junk. I work from home 2 days a week, and now that I'm getting a little bit older, sitting on this sofa is not cutting it. I need better back support. So I'm going to set up my work here, my work laptop. And this is stitching out really pretty. It's just, I think it actually might have lined up okay. It's going to be on the bottom side of the pouch, but that's okay. So normally what you would do is if you wanted to, you need to have software. You don't need expensive software. I'm on Mac, so, and I hope you guys can hear me well. Let me know if you can't hear me. I'm on Mac, so I can only use Embroidery. It's the only embroidery software that runs native on the Mac. And I don't want to be dealing with, there's an application you can use to run Windows on there. I don't want to be fussing with that. And I'm not going to switch to Windows because I have a whole Mac household. So I use Embroidery, but there's also Sew It Pro. I know is very popular. All you need is a program that will let you merge designs. So what you would do is you would pull that template that I provide with my design into that software. And then in this case, what I did is I pulled just this element out of the Snap Tab design, and you would merge that into it, and that way you can make sure it's centered. So actually, it's not too bad. Even though I couldn't really center it. On my big 6 needle upstairs, I would have been able to center this really easily. But there's probably a better way to do it on this Janome, but I really don't know because I haven't used it a lot. I mostly use this for testing because so many customers of mine and so many embroiderers out there are using a single needle machine, and these just are not as powerful as a 6 needle machine. And I want to make sure that either I give a good caveat when I sell a design that you need it on a 6 needle machine and to have that power, or I want to make sure it's going to work if I expect it to. I'm going to go home now and load up my main design. So that's why I use this Janome. I got a really good deal on it. It was used, the lady had bought it and basically had never used it. She had the top of the line Viking combination machine, and so she thought she would use this just to take to training classes because it's so much smaller and less heavy than her Viking, and she just didn't use it. So I made out. I think I paid $300 for it, and it included a couple of old softwares that are Janome specific, and I ended up reselling those on eBay for maybe $50. So it's done a really good job, but I almost killed it testing a design a few months ago, and it's one that I'm not going to release. I know there's other people who have a similar design out there, and it struggles on a single needle, and until I can get it to work on a single needle, I won't release it. I almost killed this machine. At one point, you would be going over, I think, 4 or 5 layers of vinyl, and you know, most of us are doing vinyl. It would probably work fine in cloth, but I'm not designing primarily for cloth. I'm designing primarily for vinyl. Okay, so now oops, it looks like for some reason my bobbin didn't pick up at the very end of that. Okay, it's okay. It's not going to stop us. And I will say, one thing I hate about this Janome, when I put in a new bobbin, it doesn't automatically pick it up all the time. It drives me insane. So I've stitched out the placement for the zipper, and I include a middle zipper placement because different zippers have different widths, especially, I'm trying to decide which color. I think I'm going to go with this pale blue. These are cheap zippers that I got either on Wish or Etsy, one of them. And the way I've now determined which ones are the cheap ones is if it has the silver end tape. Those are not as good a quality. The ones that are better have a painted tape or end. And of course these are just cheap from China. But it's fine for my testing, but I would not use these for anything that I'm going to sell because they're not, the tape, you can't really tell on here, but the tape is really, really thin, and I'm afraid it would actually tear apart. So I'm going to get a couple pieces of pink tape, and I can't do this. Can you get this camera down on my desktop more? Let me see if I can get it to bend down anymore. Oh wait, I think you can kind of see it there. Oh, you know what? This slides down some. There we go. Sorry guys if I'm giving you a whiplash here. Okay, so now you can see the outline of my design here. So what you want to make sure of, I use a zipper that's at least 2 inches larger than I need. And you want to make sure that your zipper pole is out of the way of the stitch design. So I line this up. In this case, this is the right size, but the zippers I bought from Zip It are slightly more narrow, and so I have to line it up a little bit easier. But the reason I include that middle stitch, I don't know if you can see what I'm doing here, and the iPad is not caught up. There we go. I can line up, see where the middle of my zipper tape is with that line, and that gives me a better lineup. So I line it up and then I slowly pull it, roll it down, and then I know it's lined up. Again, in this case, these ones actually are the perfect dimension, so I don't need to fuss too much. But if I was using a zipper that's a slightly more narrow one, I'd want to line it up a little bit better. Make sure it's even. And some of my first designs, I didn't do this next step of stitching the zipper to the stabilizer, and it may seem like a wasted step, but what I discovered is that if you don't, when you go to do the top, or in this case the right side of your bag, sometimes that zipper tape shifts and then it gets crooked. So I like to just go ahead and tape it all down and run a stabilizing stitch on both sides. That's going forward how I will do all mine. So this is a little bit of tape overdue, but or overkill, but that's how I do it. So usually I'd use a smaller piece of tape here. And on one of these small bags, you could actually probably get away with just using, I'm just going to leave black in here so it shows up better. You could get away with using a bamboo stick or something to hold it in place while it's doing that part, if you don't want to fuss with the tape. And oh my gosh, let me raise this back up. You guys don't want to see my big old tummy. I'll get better at this casting soon. Ah, there goes my wall. What did I do? I loosened something up that I shouldn't have. Sorry guys. The Facebook Live is much easier than this. Alright. There we go. So, now I'm going to take this tape off, but I'm not touching this tape yet. And you could go ahead and trim this now if you want to, but I wait until the very end because I don't want to risk somehow my zipper pull coming off. So I pull this tape off, and if you disturb the stitches on this step, it's not that big of a deal. And I can tell right now the tension is off on this machine somehow. I don't know what's going on, but definitely there's something wonky going on here, so hopefully we'll make it through. And I never fuss around with it. And this tape gets stuck down here in the zipper. I don't fuss with it. That's going to get covered up later, so if you can't get all that tiny little piece of tape out, I don't fuss with it. I just leave it. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and cut my pieces for my sides. I don't really want to waste this, but let me see if I can guesstimate. I should have cut this in advance. Do not want to waste this pretty stuff, because it's just too pretty. There's a little strip, and I'm not doing this the loop version because I want to show you how to do the hardware. But again, you can use a piece of vinyl and make a hanging loop if you don't have access to that particular kind of hardware. I would recommend that you use fold over elastic or some other kind of elastic or ribbon on a single needle machine like this, because when I did the test one on this machine, it struggled. So we're going to be covering up this side first. So did my machine, oh, I'm sorry guys. I just rotated again. It doesn't seem to like when I pulled it up a little bit. Let me lower this down a little. I don't know why it's moving. Okay, hopefully it'll stay down. Okay, so what it's going to do, it's going to run a, closer to here, it's going to run the main sewing strip. Then we're going to fold it over and it's going to run a top stitch. You end up getting a little bit of stabilizer stuck in between there, but I like the finished look of it better. I do have one or two designs where you're kind of doing this kind of thing. I don't like that as much because it's really hard to line. First, you need a really clean edge, and it's also hard to line it up. And so some of my designs are simple like that, like the diagonal seam one. If you were to do the fold over, estimating all that is really difficult. So, but for this one, I wanted a more finished look, so I'm doing it this way. So if we're going to stitch over here, imagine this is it, right side up. We're going to flip it to here so that we can stitch. So flip it over, and honestly, this is such a small piece. It usually doesn't even move if you don't tape it, but I'm going to go ahead and tape it so that you make sure you do it the right way. So first step, we're going to stitch over here so that depending on the orientation of your hoop, because they look different how your machine is, you're going to be covering what will be the right hand side. And again, you're going to want to match your thread up to the material color that you're using. And honestly, if you were doing a sewn bag, and that's what this is actually modeled after, you would not be doing the bean stitches. You'd be doing 2 single stitches like this one. But since we have the ability to take advantage of the bean stitch, I do the bean stitch because it's just prettier. That deeper stitch just looks better. So I'm folding over this, and I try to crease it as much as I can. And I just actually bought one of those little boning hair tools yesterday at the store. I should have brought that to show you. But I just use my fingers and push it down as much as I can, and then use the tape to hold it in place against the hoop. You want to keep it down as much as you can, and I can see it's still not because this is thicker, so it doesn't want to. If you're using a cloth, is in the addendum instructions, you can see that I was actually able to just put some pins through it and put those out of the stitch path. And if you have to get it really taut, and you want it taut, you don't want to have it get baggy, you could put tape in the middle too. Okay, I think I got it. So it's not, no, it's getting baggy again, so I'm going to add one more piece of tape because I do not want it to pucker. But you could add a piece of tape right down the center as well. Okay, I think we're good now. So I have all this tape, and I know I'm trying to make sure I show it, and the live stream is delayed for me. Okay, so now, again, I'm using black so you can see it better, but you're going to use whatever color matches your vinyl. While it's doing that, I'm going to go ahead and pull this other one out. And don't throw away these scraps of stabilizer. They come in really handy. On my big machine, if I don't have a bed on it, nothing will stick to the bottom. But on this machine, it's the bed on it here. If you have this vinyl on the bottom, well, this one's actually pretty smooth. The glitter vinyl, I have a scrap right here. This stuff, it's really, see, you can see. Look, I'm not holding it here. I'm trying to push it aside. You see what it's doing? Do you see? It won't even slide when I'm trying to manually do it. So imagine that's underneath your hoop and trying to go in here. When you get all that ugly stitching, when you're doing a stamp tab on the back of it, that's why, because this doesn't want to glide across. See this again? I'm not forcefully, I'm not using force or anything. It's just normal weight or normal motion, and look how it sticks. So what I do I was just doing a sample before we started here. I take the scraps, and I don't want to cut my design here. I take these and I lay it underneath the hoop, and now it glides easily, and then it just tears off. You can use tissue paper either, but actually I think that tissue paper is a little bit harder to get out of the seams at the end, so I save the scraps. Okay, so now we have this side done. So did I just lose the other piece? We're going to do the same thing on this side. So since we want it to be over here, we're going to line this up with this side of the zipper tape. And we're going to tape it in place. You can reuse this tape over here lots of times. And now that that top stitching is done, you don't have to worry about it coming up. I'm going to pull the tape out from the bottom seam now too. Okay, so again we're going to line this up here with this part of the zipper. Make sure you're covering, this is the top of your placement. You want to make sure you're covering that by 1/2 inch or so, in case you didn't cut it according to the pattern directions. Because you might have scraps laying around. And I neglected to put this in the pattern, but one of the testers confirmed that you could use one sheet of the printed vinyl to make this small bag. So you cut it according to the cutting instructions. It's enough to make one of the small bags. So if you have a lot of that printed stuff, go for it. The one caveat would be, and I don't think I have any down here to show you. There are different kinds of printed vinyl. I believe that most that Amy has is the kind that has a backing on it. Oh, why didn't I bring some with me? But some of it doesn't. Some of it's just like compressed material, and if you use a heavy stitch on it, it's gonna just cut apart. So look for the printed vinyl that has like a cloth backing on it. Oh, why don't I have any here to show you guys? I have my little sample bag down here and I don't have any. But it'll have a cloth-like material, kind of like this flannel backing on it. That kind works well. The other kind, some people have had success gluing or fusing some stabilizer like Pellon SF101 to the back of it, and they've had okay luck with that, but I just save that to use for backs of snap tabs or something like that, where it's not going to matter as much. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing. I'm pressing down on that seam, and then I'm going to tape it in place as well as I can to make sure it does not bunch up and pucker. Okay, you can see how it's nice and firm. Oh, and I forgot I was going to use a number 5 zipper. I don't have a number 5 down here with me. Somebody asked about that. I'm going to have to test with it. A number 5 zipper is going to be slightly wider teeth. I think it would work, but I need to test it. Because I left enough space in here, I think the number 5 would be okay. There'd be enough room, but I totally forgot that. So whoever that was asking, I apologize. I should have used that. And this is more similar to a number 5. This is probably a little bit wider than a number 5. I love these zippers, but they're not easy to sew over. Definitely not for the embroidery machine. On the regular sewing machine, you have to hand crank over them. And so I use these for my sandwich bags. Or anything that I am going to be using the exact measures for. So let's see. Let this work. Yeah, so you can see, I hold this up, you can see that there's probably just enough room for that to fit inside that groove there. Okay, now we have both sides down. And it's taking me longer to do this because I'm stopping and talking to you, but this is actually a very quick stitch out. I'm trimming away the extra here. And now we're going to do a basting stitch around here to reinforce the zipper at the top and the bottom. So now we do need to open up our zipper. So I want you to pull the zipper down towards the middle And on my Janome here, I'm actually going to tape the zipper so it doesn't move. But what I want you to do is keep this zipper tape snug together here and put a piece of tape over it so it holds it snug together right above those top stitch lines. And it's okay if the next stitch goes through the tape, you can pull it out. But we want to make sure that this stays together and doesn't spread apart. And I'm actually going to go ahead and put my zipper tape or my zipper pole in the middle and tape that down. And yes, this is like really horrible color here. Don't use black. I'm just doing it to show you guys easier. Okay. Oops. So this is gonna put reinforcement on both ends of the zipper so that it doesn't come undone, because what I find is unless you use a zipper ends like I have used in a couple of my patterns, it's really easy when you're working with vinyl for the zipper to come undone at the other end if you don't put some good placement stitches in it. So I go over it 3 times. So I do 2 times, it's just a basting stitch. And then when you add the back, oops, whoop, ah, what? Sorry, hit the wrong button. I just went over my tape. When you add the backing, it comes over it again. So now I can take all this tape off here because and I should have done that better so that all this tape is out of my seam, but we're gonna wing it. Sorry, I'm going off camera here. I should have lined that tape up a little bit better. It got right into the seam. I think it should be fine now. So now what I'm going to do is put on the top piece. And I did waste too much. I lined it because I was guesstimating, so I wasted some vinyl. That's okay. So what I wanted to show you is if you do this method, keep the stabilizer on here so you can estimate where to cut it. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut about 1/4 inch past that line. And then I'll tear off the stabilizer. So again, I'm going to go about 1/4 inch. That way you have enough to cover up your design. And then I'll tear off the stabilizer. Okay, so there's that. So I'm going to tear off the stabilizer. And I save these little pieces because you just never know. I have a little bag, and one of these days I'm going to just put them up and ask who wants them and sell them for shipping for all those people who like to make bows. So I'm going to softly fold this in half so I can get the halfway mark on the design. And if you have a pin or something, you might want to mark it. I'm going to actually just make a tiny little notch with my scissors because this is going to get cut anyway. So what I did is I just cut a little tiny notch so I can line it up. You can use a marker or something. So now I want to make sure that I line this up so it's going right over the middle of the zipper tape, and then we'll know it's lined up evenly. And what you can do, I'm going to guesstimate where it needs to go based on that basting stitch. I'm going to tape it down, and then before I go on, I have a pin over here. I had a pin. So I'm going to go ahead and put this pin in here and see where it shows in the back. Yep, so now that's the top of it. There's plenty of room there. Down here I'm going to do the same thing. And there's plenty of room there. So I know it's lined up right. So again, this is if you're fussy cutting it. If you're not fussy cutting it and you're just going to do your plain vinyl on the back, then don't worry about this step. So now that I know it's in the right position, I'm going to kind of cut up this vinyl and lay it down a little bit better. And yes, it's going to get stitched through, but we want to make sure it doesn't pucker. And I haven't been calling out the steps when I was doing this. You guys follow along in the PDF. But this is going to be the last step. Even though the design has another step after this, you're not going to stitch that out. Okay, so there you go. It's right side down and taped really well. Return it to your machine. And now we're going to stitch it. And then comes the fun part, opening it. And I do a smaller bean stitch for this part. Again, it's probably overkill because in a regular sewn bag, you would only have a single seam here. But we have the ability to do an extra secure seam, so why not? Especially going over the zipper. And you can hear, I don't know if you heard that little struggle. So, and I'm going to kind of, if you have a scissors or something, it's starting to pucker up there. So I'm just going to kind of reach in there. It's okay if there's a little bit of give. It just makes your bag better, but you don't want to pucker in the seam. So never ever push your fingers in there. Use, I dropped my stiletto. Let me grab it real quick. So then we can get to the next step. I did put my finger in my path of my single or my 6 needle once. I thought it was out of the way and it went right, I'm lucky, it went right through here into my finger, and I'm really lucky it didn't cut off my skin or anything. Okay, this is it. Now we're done. The machine tells you there's one more step. You're not doing that. You saw, let me put this back on so you can see what I mean. Because the machine thinks there's one more step, it stopped right here. Are you guys seeing? Oh, did my camera move again on me? Oh my gosh, you guys, I'm sorry. That was probably when I just stood up. So because it thinks there's another step, my machine moved. Stopped right here. If I did not do that, then my machine would try, when it's all done with the design, it's going to come back to center. When it comes back to center, it's going to be right here, and my machine thing is going to be down here. And can you see that? Let me get you close up. Okay, close up. Right there. The zipper pull is right there, and if it tries to move here, it's going to get stuck. And we do not want that. That can throw your machine out of timing, break needles, all sorts of stuff that we do not want. So I add an extra step, and you just ignore that step. You're done. Turn your machine off. I'm unhooping it now. I'm going to take all this tape off. Got that out of the camera range for you. And pieces I can save, I'm going to save. If I can't save, if they're already shown they're not tacky anymore, I just put them on the tearaway that I'm going to throw away. So you guys know how to do this probably. Well, maybe some of you are new. This is your first time doing an in the hoop project. This is actually probably a really good one to do because it's actually really not that difficult. It looks more difficult than it is. So I'm taking all this tape off, and I actually have some pretty big pieces of stabilizer here, so I'm not going to throw it all away. Again, why do we want to keep that extra stabilizer? So when you're doing those snap tabs, and you need something to keep your glitter vinyl from sticking to the bed of your machine. So you just pull it on here and pull it away. And I have a little pile of extra down here I keep. As long as it's at least the size of a snap tab, I save it. Okay, and then the center panels here will come out easily. Just get your finger underneath there. And this is pulling the placement stitch. Remember, that was only in the stabilizer, so don't worry when you see that thread coming up on the side, the zipper. See, and actually, it's helpful to actually cut it, and it helps pull it off better. So again, that's just the stabilizer seam. There's nothing on there. Okay, and then what I do, sometimes it comes right off easily, but if it doesn't, I take and get my scissors or something right under that middle thread from the placement one. And once you get that, if you get a hold of that, it actually will allow you to pull this whole center out easily. Of course, I say that and it's not doing it today. Let me get off screen a little bit. Try it from the other end. So you just have to cut it a little loose. Okay, there it goes. And then it'll pull it right like that. And it pulls that whole middle section of stabilizer out. Makes it really easy. Now somebody was asking about the stabilizer, how to get the stabilizer out on the middle of the zipper. I don't. I just leave it in there. Over time it'll fade away. But if you're really picky about it, you can get in with this stiletto and pull it out of that seam. I don't. I just leave it in there. You don't really see it. Let's see, you can get in there if you want to be really fastidious about it. And maybe if you're making these out of leather, you could actually make these out of leather if you have leather scraps. That's going to be a higher clientele that you're going to get. I would take the time to do that extra step if I was making this out of leather and trying to sell them for $25 or something. But see, that's all you have to do is you just get the stiletto in there and start it, and it'll come loose. I'm not doing that because I don't do it normally. The other thing you could do is they make the that seam ripper that has the little rubby thing on it. You could use that. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to cut the zipper. And somebody else asked me questions, so I'm sorry. Okay. I'm going to cut the zipper off first, and I'm going to use scissors I don't like. These are Jim Holtz. They were supposed to be really highly recommended, and I still see people who recommend them, and I think I don't like them. So I use them for everyday or every object scissors. I didn't think they cut very easily on the vinyl or anything. So remember, I have all this stabilizing in here, so I can get really close to this, and I want to cut the seam off. Now, I did see a tip, and I don't have a lighter handy. If you have a lighter, you can burn this edge, and it'll help it from fraying. But I don't have a lighter handy. I should have done that. I just saw that tip this week. So again, I'm going to kind of cut it there. So that's out of my way now. I can go through and cut. Oh, and look how close I got there. I didn't lay it up very well. See, it's too wide over there, and I barely caught it there. So again, you're going to leave yours, cut yours out a little bit bigger than that. And don't throw away these pieces of extra vinyl. These are big pieces, and they'll come in handy for applique or small snap tabs even. And I'm cutting about between 1/8 and 1/4 inch away. And I'm just going to cut regular, and then I'm going to show you what to do with the corners. And I did not do the A-line, A-frame design. This is the regular one. Okay, so now what you want to do is you want to cut off these corners here, not into the seam, but try and cut it a little bit off. This one, because I seamed it so poorly, it's already kind of taken care of. And you can go into it like this, and it helps as well if you narrow out this area. But you don't want to cut too much into it because you don't want the seam to come undone. And then the same thing at these top two. And then right here on this design, I go ahead and I cut into it like this. This is probably not necessary, but it does seem to help when you turn it to get that little piece out. I've done it both ways, and it hasn't made that much of a difference, but it might depend on how thick of the vinyl is you're using. I have not tried this with the heavier marine grade vinyls. If somebody does, let me know, but I'm feeling like they might be a little heavy for this design. So if you reach inside here, you can remove that tape that you had holding down your zipper pole, because and you can see this has actually gotten sticky on here already because it's been on here for so long. And this is the first time working with this kind of vinyl, so you have to check each vinyl handles this tape a little differently. Okay, so I pulled off that tape. And the reason I want to pull the tape out of the way now is I didn't leave it open wide enough to turn. So now if you reach in here, you can push the pull down all the way. And it's much easier to turn if you push the pull down all the way. Okay, so then what I do is I come over here and I push down this corner and push through to the other side. Like that. This corner here, push it through to the other side. Like that. And then when you push those two pieces, it allows the bottom to pull up really easily. Okay? And just, you don't have to fine tune it right now. Just, then this is already kind of, you see how it's already positioned for you to put your fingers there and flip it over. And oh my goodness, I'm disappointed here. I got that tape in the seam and I didn't realize it. Oh, it came out okay. Don't do that. Okay, so now it's just fine tuning. So you want to get in here with your fingers and try and push those seams out. And if you use a chopstick, that's the word, that helps. But I can get in here with this. You don't want anything sharp, and push it out. And you want to push until you start to see your little seam, because you want those nice sharp edges. That's part of the whole pattern, is the shape of it makes it so much cuter. Okay, and then down here, if you roll this between your fingers like this, I hope you guys can see this, it'll help. And then what you can do is when you're all done, to get that to stay flatter, roll it like this and then put it underneath something heavy, and it'll help keep that flat. I'm gonna keep working on this because I can see that I don't have this side out all the way. It's not even down there. Okay, now it's out. Oh, see, I'm looking at it, I'm like, why does this look so narrow? I haven't pushed this out yet. Okay, so now push that out. And again, you want to be careful what you put in there. You don't want to cut it. And the same thing on the seams on the side. Just roll it with your finger, and then when you're all done, you can do it. This is the hardest part, is getting these pieces up here because it's really tight, but take the time to do it. It's going to give you a much cleaner finished product if you get that out. Just go slowly with your fingers, with your nails, your chopstick, whatever you're using, and try and get that out so it's cornered up. Be patient, it'll get there. And here's another tip that you can do. If you take your stiletto, very carefully, if it's stuck in there, you can kind of bring it up from the stiletto. But you have to be careful because you don't want to tear your vinyl. That works much better on the cloth than on the vinyl. But I think it's good enough now because I can see my seam in there. So now I'm going to put the hardware on, and I'm going to show you how to do that. Oops. And here's our cute little design. Not quite centered, but it's okay. And I'll give you guys a link to that pattern from Tatiana. So I'm actually going to put the front of the key fob here. Okay, this is what they look like. There's two little hooks in here and two little bite teeth. And so I'm going to put that on the back, on the zipper side. You would normally be doing it the opposite, though, if you didn't put anything on the... So now my back is now my front, and vice versa. So this is going to be my front. So I want this to look prettier. So I'm going to pull the zipper down just a little bit to get it out of the way. And you see how it's straight across. So I want my teeth, I kind of position it and roll the good side into the good side of the clamp, right there. And then I position it so that the teeth catch into the back. And you want to look on both sides and make sure that that is up as high as it goes so that it's not crooked. Okay? And make sure it looks even. and mine does. So as soon as you do that, these are the pliers for these. These are actually stained glass pliers. So there's a little round area here, and then this is concave. Is that right? I use the part that's rounded on the pretty side of the clamp and push down. If you don't have these, use a towel and regular pliers and wrap this around the towel and then come in from the side gently just until you can get it to bite, and then just keep clamping, pliering it down until it's secure. But I did that about 3 or 4 times, and I was like, forget this, I need these. I don't know, you can probably get them at Harbor Freight a lot cheaper. I think I might have paid $15 or something like that on whatever site I found them on. They have them on Amazon, but I don't think I ordered them from Amazon. Okay, so now it's all ready, and you can see it looks even on both sides. And I'm going to go ahead and use the plier and clamp down on it. And I like to start right in the middle, and I hold it in between my fingers to make sure it's even, and then I just take a tiny bite just to get it started in the middle and make sure, again, once you get it all the way in, it's almost impossible to undo it. So I just slowly do it on the 2 sides then. So I do the center and make sure it looks like it's straight, and then I do both sides. And I'm going to go ahead and off camera, I'm going to finish clamping down. So you just clamp it down. And if you already major into this craft and you have a snap tab press, table press, I think I'm pretty sure Cam Snap is now selling a plate for these. Pretty sure it's Cam Snap. I haven't ordered it yet, but because my table press doesn't work well. And then it comes with these nice little rings. You just put it in there. And there you go. Awfully cute. And I don't know how, see, I have tape residue on here, so be careful and take that tape off very quickly. And that pink tape already, in that shorter period, it kind of left a residue. But you can get that off with more tape or rubbing alcohol. Yeah, so I actually just used a piece of tape and it all came off. And then here's your zipper. It's not going to pull off. And this is raw edge on the inside, so that's why it's important to use a vinyl or a material that's meant to be raw edged, a non-fraying material. And digging this. Can you guys see how pretty this vinyl is? You see the iridescence that's showing up? It's so pretty. And we have our cute little design. And this actually, just in the time I've been working on it, see that? It's already flat on the bottom. I don't even need to press this with anything. This vinyl is really well, working really well. It's very pliable. It turns really easy. And again, this is the new metallic line from my Punk embroidery. This one is whipped avocado metallic. I think I caught it seafoam earlier. It's whipped avocado. Hopefully you guys can see that because the live stream is delayed. I can wait a minute or two if you guys have any questions. And I always save my little labels and put back on my vinyl so I know what it is. I'm going to be honest, I don't always put the little rings back around it. Don't tell Amy. Okay guys, I hope that helped. I hope y'all enjoy this, and I'll get better at this YouTube live next time. I think it's better for me just to do the videos in advance. Let me see how I end this, and you guys have a good Sunday. I'm going to take my son skating here in a few minutes. Let's see, how do I end it?